The Scaling Up and Empowering Movements for Climate Change Advocacy project brought local governments and civil society together for inclusive climate policy development. We present 6 recommendations from the SEMCCA project that can be used to guide future engagements across various initiatives. Firstly, create collaborative governance frameworks that support innovative ways to address climate change and produce just, inclusive, and effective policies. Coordinate amongst civil society efforts for stronger advocacy to and with local governments by instilling effective processes and frameworks and building capacities. Establish neutral engagement platforms to bring diverse and unheard voices to the table and navigate power dynamics in order to share multiple forms of knowledge and galvanize just and effective climate action. Involve NGOs and other urban stakeholders by providing them opportunities to present what they are doing and by co-developing city plans with them. This ensures ownership and shared responsibility for implementing these plans. Map government mandates and resources at a local level to understand the authorizing environment, governance structures, gaps, challenges, and opportunities. And finally, explain local government policies and decision-making processes to ensure civil society understands the authorizing environment and can meaningfully contribute to government processes. With these recommendations, we can strengthen collaboration between civil society and local governments and take just climate action together.
Cities all over Africa are experiencing the effects of climate crisis. This is already seen in heavier rains, in flooding, in extreme droughts and water shortages, and in changing and unpredictable weather, which affects planting and harvesting crops.
This is all while the cities are trying to provide services, resources, and economic opportunities for the growing populations. Our cities are also at a moment in history when all the choices they make about urban plans, infrastructure investments, social protection policies will shape the next decade and determine whether these cities, the region, and the world will become more sustainable and inclusive.
To help make these choices, local governments, civil society, private sector, and residents must all work together.
Resilient climate solutions increasingly need to use the experience, knowledge, and energy of people who will be the most affected by climate change as the basis for planning future urban areas.
In cities, this requires not only drawing on insights from local authorities and national governments, but also from social movements and urban residents, particularly the poor.
The SEMCCA project, Scaling Up and Empowering Movements for Climate Change Advocacy, focused on exactly this.
How do we support better local government civil society partnership that will lead to a better climate action?
The SEMCCA project aimed to identify innovative mechanisms to foster strong and effective collaboration between people-powered civil society groups and their local governments.
It aimed to provide tangible guidance on climate action through the lenses of food, water, and mobility in 3 cities.
It also sought to demonstrate that process is as important as product. Many organizations measure project success through things rather than appreciating the importance of shared learning, the importance of speaking across different sectors, and developing shared visions and action plans.
Processes that exercise, live, and operate in a just manner are vital for building a sense of ownership, a sense of sharing and learning, and these are often missed in a simple product. If we act in just manners, we demonstrate the value not through talk, but through action.
SEMCCA has shown that if we are to achieve a just transition, we must practice it in our everyday interactions and processes.
The way we facilitated processes with each city was through learning labs. Learning labs are a great entry point because they are not once-off interactions, but recognize that they need multiple moments to reinforce learning and to deepen discussion and shared understanding.
They explicitly allow for and encourage experimentation for problem solving. They create space for multi-level dialogue and engagement across sectors, and here they are supporting dialogue as opposed to directing it. Most importantly, they are neutral platforms, needed to manage power dynamics between different actors. And finally, they can support in developing practical knowledge and skills that all participants can take forward in their own ways.
In Lagos, we focused on sustainable urban mobility, particularly last-mile connectivity and non-motorized transport, such as walking and cycling.
In Kisumu, we focused on food systems, working with the Kisumu Local Interaction Platform to develop a process document for establishing a multi-stakeholder forum for climate action and promoting circular food systems in the county.
In Lusaka, we worked with Lusaka City Council and Luisi with a focus on water. This resulted in the development of a policy brief for taking collective action for improved water security.
On top of this, we conducted city-to-city learning exchanges to find the broad principles across contexts for enabling civil society, local government collaboration, resulting in 6 key recommendations.
We partnered with the civil society groups, and then we invited the local governments to the table.
The discussions helped to build a collective understanding of climate change impacts, and this eventually led us to co-produce a process document for setting up a working group to facilitate ongoing collaboration and knowledge exchange.
Through SEMCCA, we saw the power of local governments working closely with civil society, working across themes for just climate outcomes.
This approach is vital for inclusive outcomes in African cities, and it is something we hope to see taken up by more cities.
The vital role that we and our partners are playing in this process is a brokering role and a translation role. The difficulty when you're bringing different sectors together is that they each speak different languages. They each articulate their challenges and their approaches to addressing them in different ways. And that means that people are often speaking at different levels and past each other. The importance of bringing people into a room together is to get them to do the translation work together, to actually work out how their processes can support each other, complement each other, build upon each other's work, and to develop a shared vision together, one that they can each own and they each understand their role in achieving. Through SEMCCA, we saw the power of local governments working closely with civil society, working across themes for just climate outcomes. This approach is vital for inclusive outcomes in African cities, and it's something that we hope to see taken up by many more cities across the continent and the world. Let's take a closer look at each city now.
So the SEMCCA project in Kisumu focused a lot on building and strengthening the collaboration for circular food systems. And this meant that we had to draw in civil society organizations, academia, private businesses, community-based organizations, and the local government officials to engage, to learn together, to co-create knowledge, and develop shared collaborative practices to identify ways that they can continuously work together in building the inclusive and sustainable food systems for the county.
Prior to this, decision-making within the climate was non-consultative. You would find that each and every department of government and each and every stakeholder were making decisions independently without creating synergy or a collective platform in which decisions would be made collectively.
Now there's involvement of including the civil society organizations that represent the grassroots actors, those who are affected and are likely to be beneficiaries of any actions that are taken. So I would say now the decision making has become more inclusive.
And why was this important at this particular time? So the food systems of Kisumu are characterized by inadequate local food production and inefficiencies in distribution, in processing, and in retail. So these inefficiencies mean that more food has to be produced to satisfy the needs of the fast-growing urban population. And in the way it's being done, it's contributing to environmental degradation, to greenhouse gas emissions, and this is in turn leading to climate change.
So we've seen a lot of progress through the SEMCCA project towards realizing more active civil society organizations and government being more open and being more willing to work with civil society organizations. That also includes organizations that bring together even the private for-profit business enterprises that are now coming up to support such initiatives that can be able to contribute to circular food systems, because they also realize that their businesses can also benefit from the same.
We created a series of 3 learning labs which enabled the participants to identify the areas of tension and opportunities for sustained collaboration in realizing a circular food system. The first planning lab built an understanding of the linkages between food systems and climate change, and also articulated climate change-related challenges and opportunities in Kisumu County's food system. Also, in the same lab, participants identified the key local stakeholders, both national and regional, along the food value chain, that are instrumental to driving local food systems transformation towards a circular economy. In the second learning lab, we looked at the policy environment around climate change and food systems and highlighted the ongoing initiatives from the different stakeholders that were present. Eventually, this led into the third learning lab where we discussed the processes of creating a working group that can bring together diverse stakeholders for learning, for formulating action on food systems and climate change.
Now, through this ICLAY project, it is trying to bring in all the stakeholders, all the multi-sectoral players within one forum in which decisions can be made collectively through widespread consultations, so that a single decision made by the team is able to increase efficiency and response to climate change and strengthening of urban food systems.
Creating spaces and platforms for collaboration needs to be intentional and driven by either the local government or other stakeholders such as civil society organization. However, this is valuable if we are closely bringing on board key stakeholders or actors that are impacted by the issues at hand. The Kisumu process document that we crafted as an outcome from the entire engagement was drafted as a blueprint that can be adopted by different stakeholders in other cities to set up working groups around identified thematic areas.
When civil society organizations are clear on the agenda of the local government, and the government is also clear on the agenda of the organizations, then the presumed tensions that exist, or sometimes just perceptions of tensions between the local government and civil society organizations, are reduced, and then they are able to work better for the citizenry.
I want to say that this is exactly in line with our constitution of Kenya, and specifically also one of the Urban Areas and Cities Act that emphasizes on citizen participation or public participation. Looking at what we have from the labs, we've seen different stakeholders participating, consulting, and engaging in one another. Now, this lab has made us to know what we have, which previously some of us didn't know.
A particular organization that has been involved in the entire SEMCCA process has taken ownership of the Circular Food Systems Working Group, and it will house it till it has collected the resources and the capacity to operate on its own. This is key because they see the value in the platform as a way of taking forward and continuing the engagements of the SEMCCA project.
ICLAY Africa, in partnership with the Lagos Urban Development Initiative, designed a program to support Ikeja local government in developing a roadmap for the implementation of non-motorized transport in Ikeja local government. 3 learning labs and 1 advocacy workshop was held to facilitate the development of the roadmap and seek ways to operationalize and take the roadmap forward.
What we've seen so far is that Ikeja local government have actually started to put this into practice. They've taken the roadmap and they're starting to run with it. They're also already engaging us as well as the state government, LAMATA, Lagos State Metropolitan Transport Authority, to work on implementing NMT solutions within Ikeja local government. So already we're seeing great impact and we're seeing proactive governance working.
I think the labs were very insightful because first, the labs was used to identify the issues that they were going through, and they were able to come up with everything. And the interesting thing was that they were used to get the solutions to some of these issues. So the exciting thing is, you can see that people know the issues they're going through and even the solutions, but they don't know how to go about it.
It's been helpful because I think that the idea is to come up with a sort of roadmap or a handbook on how to utilize these relationships and how to create like a sort of a step-by-step process to achieving those goals.
The SEMCCA project was somewhat emergent, And by this, I mean that the type of activities, outcomes, and outputs were based on the needs, tension points, and burning issues that were identified by the Learning Lab participants. The Learning Labs made use of tools, activities, and co-production processes, such as SWOT analysis, vision building, action identification, and mandate and stakeholder mapping. During these Learning Labs, participants collectively unpacked the challenges that they are confronted with that lead to limited engagements in their city.
Prior to this time, we've had several engagements with the local government and there hasn't been that support. You find out that the trust issues, was one of the things, because they were always thinking, what is in it for me, and what is in it for us. So, but with this SEMCCA project, I've been able to see or know their fears and how to come in, from time to time.
I come from CSO, so it's always a struggle, or we always look forward to getting such engagement with people from the local government, and this was really, really characteristic of that, bringing people from Ikeja local government who were willing and committed to participate. The responsibility of CSOs is usually to go ahead with this kind of project, but for far too long it's really been hard to get the buy-in. I may just go on to say the same thing all over again, but we cannot really overemphasize the importance of having the CSO and local government collaboration.
Because the Learning Labs were facilitated by a local, non-government organization, it provided a neutral space where participants could freely voice their perspectives and experiences. This was vital in highlighting the tensions that exist that inhibit multi-level governance and lead to ineffective collaboration.
These workshops facilitate that because they put everyone in the same room and everyone can talk and exchange ideas, and I think that's the formula for change, putting people together.
Collaboration is important to all stakeholders, not just local government. But of course, when implementing projects at a local level, we must engage local government and CDAs. It's key to the work that we do because we're trying to make impact at that level. It's not just necessarily about the individual, but also the community and what we can do within that community to engage them, to improve their lives economically, socially as well. So it's impossible to do any project without collaboration, without engaging stakeholders.
Hitherto have not really existed, like I highlighted in my previous remarks. So we're looking forward to having more. This is massive to the extent that it's a strategic local government in Lagos State. If we're able to get it done, follow up with the learnings, the feedback, and then go ahead to implement, like we're saying, have projects done at the local government level with students, with schools, and all of that, then we can replicate. To be easy to have the buy-in of other local governments.
Another thing that he has told me is that we must find out what the local government wants to achieve, where their priorities are, and then make sure that we are aligned with those. And lastly, we must continue to be proactive. We must continuously pressure local government for change and action.
The Ikeja Roadmap presents not only simple solutions for NMT implementation, but also the lessons learned from the Lagos Learning Labs, as well as the processes for collaboration, co-production, and building strong partnerships. Other cities could learn that meaningful and consistent collaboration and engagement is key in building trust and fostering inclusive and collective action. And it can be done.
In Lusaka, we ran 3 learning labs. The learning labs were attended by different stakeholders from different backgrounds. That includes community members, NGOs, SCOs, and local government.
We as Lucy partners are influencing the water security agenda in the planning process. Through these regular discussion forums, interactions, we have seen relationships being strengthened. We have seen the local government who was sidelined at some point, who was looked at as a difficult bureaucratic institution by the different partners, now coming closer and more interested to work with the local authority as mandate holders to undertake development projects in the city of Lusaka.
The meeting that I attended today was very, very good because it highlighted the programs and problems that are faced in the community where I'm coming from, especially on water and sanitation. So as a community, we need to partner with the government and with other organizations that are bringing sanitation in our community so that diseases and other things that are affecting us in the community will be eradicated.
I've learned more on, especially on our community. It is great to be a part of this, because obviously, you know, with all these technocrats and without us, the community, all this would not be applied anywhere. So we need to be a part of the game from the beginning to the implementation, from the planning to the budgeting to the onset, not only implementing, to the maintenance of whatever is installed in our community. We are the custodians. So I'm so grateful for this learning lab. I look forward to the next learning lab.
In Lusaka, we produced a policy brief that is informed by the outcomes of the learning labs that we ran with the community members, the local government and our partners. And this policy brief will be used to inform the development of future water policies and plans, as well as inform the engagements that want to follow the same SEMCCA approach. In as much as the policy brief focuses on water security, it also details the importance of civil society, community and local partnerships. So these insights from this policy brief can be used by other cities to inform their engagements that may be even focusing on different themes.
If my community members not kuyopegeni kumana na watu wameli wali ku council ngati wakutuma council tinali kuyopa kona na directors, but engagement ya kuti civic organization ma council ma directors community at large ma different organization wameli wankhala pamozi. I think inachiona kuti chapelesa openness na kunkhala free bantu kukamba apo pamene bimakanga kukamba pa community level.
I think we've seen interpersonal relationships developing. If I have an issue that I need to address, I can easily pick up the phone and call maybe Lusaka Water. I know who to call, I know where to go. If I have an issue, I can go to Lucy to help me find the correct people or channel for me to communicate with a particular organization that can be able to help me depending on the issue that I'm going through. So now we are able to plan together as different stakeholders at city level and address those issues.
I especially appreciated understanding a little bit more about the finances that go into developing a water sector and the situation that Lusaka in Zambia are in related to investments by the government. We know it's difficult, but there still needs to be more investment in the water sector to make sure people are safe.
But kuona kwamene naona monga lero naona because kwa representation yabamayi bamozi bamene bapezekati banasankhidwa mu CDF and naona kuti kupezeka mzimayi kusankhidwako imankhala ni opportunity kulu because community kuti iwame bazimayi bazichita involve fully. Then ngana futi panel ba representative bamene bachokera ku Chaisa. I think it's the open eye kwa ife bonse ma communities utingatambira ma meetings ya solo bachita invite staziyo pateni kala kupezeka na kupezeka kwa ba director of council chankala open sitinaonapo kunkhala ma officials but we don't say we are fighting the same battle.
The two words that I took away from this engagement are devolution and decentralization. My job description requires me to be in the community and to engage with community members. And with devolution and decentralization, we need to engage more of community members in what affects them, because at the end of the day, they know what they need more than we do. So if I live in one part of Lusaka, but I'm making decisions for another part of Lusaka, that doesn't work. So for me, this was my biggest takeaway, that we need to engage more community members and we need to hear more about their stories, their inputs and what they expect from other parts and from us who can help them.